Welcome back to WRPL. It's the podcast where we talk about all the things we were watching, reading, playing, and listening to. My name's Ben.
And I'm Steve.
What's going on, Steve?
Not much, Ben. It's been a week of me just crushing movies and video games
This
and
list
books.
you have
I
is
listened
daunting.
to a bunch of music, but just to keep the people anticipating, I'm not going to mention any of them, but two.
Good. Our main topic is Flight Risk, of all things. Last week I said it was going to be Companion. I'm dumb. I checked Regal and I put it out to Friday and it said it was playing. So maybe there was a single showing, a special engagement thing. I don't know why, but that's next week. Companion's next week. But no, it's Flight Risk, the Mel Gibson, Mark Wahlberg movie. Oh, okay. Well, let's start with a roll. Terrible, off the table. Okay, well, that's
This one doesn't count for me.
things to come. Is that 10?
That is a 12.
Okay.
Not bad. All right. I've been getting high lately. Let's see. I'm gonna say. You know what? I'm not even gonna say anything. 8! Oh!
Hey.
Put it together. That's a 20. I think it's whoever rolls first. I think that's
It gets the higher?
it gets
Okay,
higher.
maybe.
Yeah, I think that's the secret sauce.
Well, I rolled higher, so I get to go first. I saw a movie that came out a while ago, Manchester by the Sea. I wanted to talk to Nick about this because he really dug it. And I've heard a lot about it. Casey Affleck won Best Actor.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know who he was up against that year, but he does a pretty good job. So I get it. I've heard that there's some crazy fucked up stuff that happens. And, I'd say that that's also true. I was expecting a big twist. I don't know why. I thought there would be something that happened at the end that really made me go like, oh, wow, crazy. So basic quick synopsis. A man, he loses his brother and he has to take care of his 16-year-old nephew. He has had a very troubled past himself and he doesn't want the responsibility. Simple as that. So I like this movie. I think it's good. I think the tragic thing that happens in the middle of losing his family and trying to kill himself is a nice, shocking moment. But this movie is really frustrating. I really hate Casey Affleck in this. I understand how hard it could be to lose your whole family and start over. And then he's handed this perfect opportunity to move back to his hometown. I know that's probably the hardest thing, but he's given like a house and a boat. And yes, he just has to take care of his 16-year-old nephew, who is pretty self-sufficient already, and enough money to take care of this kid until he can be an adult. And he refuses to do it. He cannot get over his past and just doesn't grow. He grows a little bit to be like, well, I'm going to have a second bedroom for you and you could come visit me, but I'm going to give up all the rights to a friend who already has enough responsibility and I'm going to go back to my shit life. And you expect him to learn something and stay and try to rebuild his life, but he doesn't. So he just stays this fucking asshole the whole time. And it really kind of like left a bad taste in my mouth by the end. Like, even after all this, you're just going to go be a janitor in a town that means nothing to you when you have friends and family here and you can start anew.
Yeah, but he's a wicked smart janitor.
No, he's not.
Solve math problems
no,
on the
not
blackboard
really.
at Harvard.
Not at all.
No, I mean, I get what you're saying because it's like, here's the keys to the kingdom, but I don't think it was about. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen it. I only saw it once in theaters, but I mean, the whole movie gives you evidence of like why he can't take the win. Because, to him, I think, like, there is no winning. I've lost everything. Like, you can give me this stuff, but it's not going to bring back the thing that I want, which is
and nothing will.
my children. Yeah.
So try at least
but
to help.
I think that him caring for his nephew or whatever, it's like, it's not the thing that will heal me, but it has given me enough to go like, okay, I'll stick around because the whole movie you're kind of just waiting for him like, is this the time he's gonna like blow his brains out because
Mm-hmm.
he runs into his ex-wife and she's like, she's like, I said so many horrible things to you because he's not necessarily the reason that
But
dead,
it's his fault.
but it's his fault. Um, and she's just like, I'm so sorry, and it's just like I can't live with, I can't talk to you. Like all this hurt is here. The idea of like him trying to kill himself, just him going back to the house, and then it just like I think cuts to like the bodies in the body bags being put onto the gurneys, and he's just standing there, and he like reaches out to him, and it's just like Jesus Christ. Uh, and he hates himself, and he'll always
So
hate himself.
then kill yourself or try to get over it. It's been 10 years. Your ex-wife is remarried and has a new child of her own. She was able to move past it, but you can't? I just
Yeah, I mean,
why am I supposed to care about this guy? He shirks all of his responsibilities so he could go back to his humdrum life. Okay, why did I watch this movie then? If he, because they kept talking about like, oh, shark attacks and throwing the kids in to feed the sharks, like just to scare him when he was a little kid. I thought maybe he would get eaten by a shark, and that was this crazy shocking ending, or he would end up killing himself. But no, he just goes back home.
I mean, I kind of respect it that it's not the Hollywood movie where everyone is happy at the end or whatever, and that's fine. I think the movie also is saying like, yeah, maybe he can't get better, maybe he doesn't want to get better, maybe all that stuff, but the kid who has just lost someone dear to him, you know, can he get better? And like having his uncle there made him better,
Sure.
and he knows that he can go back to his uncle if he is hurting, and his uncle may live the rest of his life in misery, but he'll stick around to make that kid happy. And I think
But he
that's
doesn't stick around. He goes back to Boston.
well, I don't mean like
Like he
they're
sticks
not
around.
sharing a house, but like he can call him, they can
But that
visit, he
was
can,
always the case. He was always just an
but
hour
they
and a
never,
half down the
yeah,
road.
but they never did
Ah,
that.
what a takeaway. He finally learned that he can call his uncle. So it's
Sometimes
like,
that's all you need.
nah, I think this is a very good movie, but it's annoying, and I would not recommend this to people just because of how frustrating that character is. If he would have killed himself because that was his goal, I like he was about to before he got the call that his brother died, and then he was never able to get over it and never able to grow, and he had to keep skirting this because he needed to get back home so he could kill himself. That would have been fine. He's dead set on this end goal. Doesn't matter anything else. But no, he's just gonna go get another janitor job and live in Boston. Like, and why? Why am I caring? So yeah, they're like good acting performances, especially him just explaining how his kids died to the cops and then trying to pull the gun and all that. But I don't know, like too long for not having like a better point.
I mean, I can't argue strongly because I haven't seen it in. What year did this come out? Come on, Steve, you
I
can
don't
do
know.
this.
This is your
I'm gonna say
thing.
2013.
Sure.
Okay, I'll look it up later.
Okay. But yeah, so all in all, like I give it a B minus. Like, it's a well made movie, but I don't give a fuck about this movie.
Okay.
Your turn.
So the one movie I will talk about besides our main topic, uh, I watched Shiva Baby,
Oh,
currently streaming on Netflix. A small indie film starring Rachel Sennett, who was on The Idol, and she was one of the stars of Bottoms, and had a small part, or not a small part, but she was in Saturday Night. She was in Saturday Night.
bodies, bodies, bodies.
I didn't see Bodies,
Oh,
but
okay.
yes. So she's a young actress on the rise, has been getting quite a good amount of work in the past couple years. And this was her and the director's sort of debut. The director of this also directed Bottoms,
Hmm.
wrote and directed. They met in college at NYU, and so there was a short film called Shiva Baby that they turned into a full length feature. And by full length, this movie is an hour and 17 minutes total with
Nice.
credits.
Nice.
So it's basically just an extended episode of a TV show, but it's the only episode of a TV show you get. And it's pretty good. I wouldn't say it's a must see because it's not necessarily flashy, and it's also like I would say it's a comedy, but really it's more of like it almost feels like a horror movie in a sense,
Okay.
but it's not a horror movie at all. I don't really know how to explain it. I guess tonally it's a little unsure of itself, but I see what it's trying to do. So the premise is there's a young girl who has a sugar daddy. She goes to Shiva, which is a Jewish, essentially celebration of life, I
Hmm.
guess. And while she's there with her parents and like family members, she runs into an ex girlfriend, but also her sugar daddy, who also happens to be married,
Mm.
and all the crazy things that happen along the way. Um, and so this movie just kind of presents itself as like she is this young person who's trying to figure out like what she wants to do in college. She doesn't know what her life goals are, and her family is constantly pushing her to like, oh, we need to find you a job. Like, she says she's babysitting. Like, babysitting isn't going to pay the bills, and so she's constantly feels like her mom and dad are like embarrassed of her and they're ashamed of her because every conversation she like walks in, it's like, oh, this is your cousin Mort. The cousin Mort works at this place. You think, hey, cousin Mort, you think that you can get her a job maybe as an intern at your place? And they're like
Hmm.
constantly pushing her to do this thing. And she's like, I don't want to do that. And it's like, oh, so, and someone will ask her like, oh, what are you studying at college? And she's like, the gender studies. And they're like, what's gender studies? Gender studies isn't a real thing. You should really think about business or
Hmm.
whatever. It's just like every conversation, it just gives her like anxiety and like frustration because like everyone is just judging her, or it feels like they're judging her at all times. Meanwhile, she's like running into this ex-girlfriend who she had like a bad breakup with, but clearly there's still some like feelings there. Her ex-girlfriend is played by Molly Gordon, who
Oh
you've
no.
seen in things.
Okay.
She was in Booksmart. She was one of like she was like that popular girl who said she got into Harvard but still gave blowjobs in high school. She's like
No.
the girlfriend on The Bear season 2.
Didn't see season 2 yet.
Okay, whatever. Anyway, you've seen her. You
I'll
see
look
her
her up.
face. Her dad is also one of those character actors who's like, I don't know your name, but you've been in a bunch of stuff.
He's a that guy.
Yeah, he's a that guy. But then yeah, so she has to like pretend she doesn't know the sugar daddy, but she didn't know he was married. So then the wife shows up with their baby, and she's like stunning. So that gives her insecurity as well. And the mom is like noticing, like, why are you like talking, like when they're talking, they seem to be exchanging weird glances, or like what's the deal? Like, why are you looking at him like that way? He's married, and then he's like, Mom, I'm not gonna blow him in the bathroom, which is funny because then like instead in the movie she tries to blow him in the bathroom. Like, there's some funny bits because she's clearly got good comedic chops, but it's not like a hilarious movie. But as the movie goes on, it just gets more and more like kind of anxious, and you can see her like wanting to break down, and then the movie just kind of like ends, and it ends like
Mm.
mostly in a happy way. Um, but it's just for an hour and 15-minute movie from a new up and coming talent, it's pretty good. This is like first feature out of college, and it's essentially just like an extended short film, and I liked it, and you could definitely see that there's talent here, which shows because Bottoms was my third favorite movie of the year came out.
Hmm.
I might even switch it to my top two, but I really like Bottoms. And so I'm excited to see what these two.
Do you know if they have anything in the pipeline?
I know Rachel Sennett's doing her own HBO show
Mm.
that she's writing and starring in, so I imagine she'll probably pull the director in to at least direct some episodes, maybe, or maybe her director is doing her own thing. I haven't looked it up, but they'll work together again. It's kind of like you struck gold with like your roommate was Ao
Itabiri.
Idibiri, and like she's taken off. You're doing
Hmm.
your own thing, like getting your own HBO show. The director's getting work, like, and you're all just what a gold mine of just. Whoa, this is a good person I made
Right.
friends with at the right time.
Speaking of AO, have you seen the trailer for her new movie, like Opus, with Malkovich, John Malkovich?
I did watch the trailer.
Weird. That
It's
looks,
a weird trailer,
yeah.
but not a weird in like a way I'm like, ooh, I'm excited to see
Hmm.
that. I'm just kind of tired of this. Despite saying like last year was a great year for horror, it was, but I don't know. It just looks like a kind of don't blink
Don't,
twice vibe, but
don't blink.
also
Or blink
blink
twice.
twice. Yeah,
I do the same thing. I'm getting like a menu
Yeah. A
vibe.
Blink Twice meets the menu kind
Yeah.
of thing, and I'm just, I don't know if this is a
Okay.
genre I'm super interested in. Uh, I mean, we'll see.
Yeah.
If reviews come out and they're like, this is pretty good, I might check it out.
Hmm.
But I don't want to just watch a weird ass movie for being a weird ass movie.
Well, speaking of movies or genres that you don't care about, I watched. I was very anticipated for this. I heard so many things, and it finally came to Tubi of all places. It seemed like it should have been a Shudder movie, but I watched the horror slash comedy. It's listed as comedy. A lot of people would not find this movie funny. The Coffee Table. Now,
Oh, I think I know what this is.
if you don't want to hear spoilers of The Coffee Table, turn this off because I'm going to spoil the whole movie for Steve because he just needs to hear it.
Well,
Go
can I?
ahead. Yeah.
Let me guess what the thing is,
Okay.
because I think I did look this up because I heard this movie is fucked up.
Oh, okay. That's a shame. I've been excited.
Is it the decapitated baby movie?
God, yes,
Yeah.
it's the decapitated baby movie. Fuck, Steve. You just took it away from me.
Look, blame the internet who's just like, you have to see this horror movie or whatever.
And
I'm
that's
not
why
going to watch it. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, I saw The Coffee Table, and it's really good. I love this movie. It is really fucked up. So
I read the
there's
Wikipedia and my jaw was on the floor. And then I showed my wife. I was like, babe, I don't want to even tell you about this movie. And then she was like, all right. She wasn't impressed at all. She was like,
yeah.
I thought it was going to upset her
Yeah,
because we had just a child.
we were I thought about talking about it on our trip up to the comedy show, but I was like, no, she doesn't want to hear this.
No,
She works
she
with
shockingly
kids.
did not care. But I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, it stunned me because that's all I knew was there's something that happens in here that is you've never seen in movies before, and it will shock you to your core, and it's just awful. I'm like, okay, well, I gotta see this, but I don't look up spoilers for things I actually want to see, so I just bided my time, and then it was on Tubi. So it's about a couple, and they just had their baby. They're a little bit older, and he's not too happy with this. Like he didn't think he was ready, even though they should have had a baby, by now.
Yeah.
And he's upset that she named the kid after her grandfather. It's in like an ugly name. She's decorated the house. She gets everything. And he just wants this one damn coffee table. He thinks it's cool. It's really ugly. It's like naked ladies all in gold with a glass top. And the table salesman is just a huge scumbag trying to, sell them on this thing that is a piece of shit. And he's talking up the glass is unbreakable and and the woman's just like laughing in his face like, you bring this home, I'm gonna kill you. And so of course he buys it.
And just to be clear, this is a Mexican film, correct?
It's Argentinian.
Argentinian. Okay.
Yeah. So he brings it home and he's putting it together and she's pissed and it's missing a screw, so it's not staying put. So he has to prop the glass up on one side, calls the guy, bring this screw down, or blah, 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 blah. And so the wife is pissed and well, we're hosting your brother and his new girlfriend. I have to go to the store, so I'm leaving. It's like, well, take the baby. Like, no, fuck you, dude. Bond with your goddamn son for once. And so he's trying to get the baby to go to sleep. It's crying. He's walking back and forth and kind of making fun of him for his name and things. And then he slips and you hear a crash and then baby's not screaming anymore. And then we cut to, and this, all you see is down a hallway and he's walking back and forth. So you don't see him fall. So it's just off frame. And then it's like an above shot of there's a baby, this huge painted glass right where its neck is with this huge streak going down.
Oh my God.
And then the trail of where the head has rolled underneath a chair. And it's got little tassels. So he is looking underneath and you see this shadowy head. You don't actually see it, but you know something there. And he can't bring himself to grab the head. So he puts the baby in the crib and is freaking out and I got to cover this up. So he cleans up the glass and he's trying to clean up the blood. And there's a side story here that was introduced a little bit before this, but he's trying to get cleaning products from the neighbor. There's this 12, 13-year-old girl who's obsessed with him. And he's like, when are you going to tell your wife that you're in love with me? I'm not in love with you. Leave me the fuck alone. Like, well, you sent me all those love poems. And he's like, no, you needed a book about love poetry, and so I suggested this one because that was your homework. And
Hmm.
she's just infatuated. They don't allude that anything has actually
Sure.
happened. She's just upset. I'm like, well, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna tell your wife that you tried to kiss me if you don't tell me you love me right now. And he's just like, fuck off. So he tries to clean it up, and the wife comes back and like, oh my god, what happened? And he did cut
Yeah,
himself,
yeah.
and like, oh, the coffee table broke, and I bled all over the place. And she finds it so fucking funny. She is laughing so hard, like for minutes on end, just like, I told you, don't fucking buy this thing, and then look what happened. Um, and so let me pause for a second. So this movie is kind of darkly funny
Hmm.
because it feels like a typical sitcom situation where like, we lost mom's dog, what are we going to do, she's going to be back in 10 minutes. So like, one of the kid is trying to distract the mom and
Yeah.
the other one's trying to go find it, but at the most highest possible fucking stakes you can have. And so there's all these scenes of when she's at the store, she's talking to her friend, like, oh, we heard you had a baby. Oh, finally, I had my kid. It will bring us so much happiness. Nothing has ever been as good as this baby. And, you know, uh, she calls him on the phone after he's in the glass like forever, just in
Hmm.
shock. She tries to call him and he answers, but he just hangs up on her. And she calls back and's like, oh, did it cut off?
Oh
It's
my
like all of
god.
these tiny little lines that
That's
in
great.
hindsight are so funny, but it's so dark you shouldn't laugh. So she wants to go see the baby when she gets home, and he's like, just let him sleep. It took me a long time to get him down. Give me about 2 hours.
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, fine, fine, fine. Put the baby monitor in. And so he does, and they're sitting there getting the meal ready for when his brother comes, and they just hear on the baby monitor. I'm
Hmm.
like, what the fuck is that? Well, it's a decapitated baby. All of its blood has been pouring out and it's dripping through the mattress underneath
Oh
the crib.
god. Jesus.
So he like stops all that, and eventually the brother and the brother's girlfriend comes over, and they're just saying all these things of, you know, knowing what has happened is just making you feel awful. And she's pregnant. Finally, oh, your son is gonna have a cousin and they're gonna grow up and live long, happy lives, and just like laying it on.
Yeah.
And he is just looks like shit. And they see it like, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? You look like you're about to die. Oh, I lost a lot of blood and I don't feel good. So he can't take it anymore and he goes into the bathroom and I think he's doing a voice note. Maybe he's typing it out, but he's saying, honey, I can't tell you this. The look on your face will kill me and I can't live with that. When you find this, like, I'm gonna go jump off the balcony, like right now, and then you'll know the answer to all this. I'm sorry, I can't do it anymore. But his brother
This is
hears.
how Manchester by the Sea was invented.
So the brother hears this and is like, "Oh my god, show me!" He shows the baby, and like, you can't tell her. I'll do it for you. We got to figure something out. And so the girlfriend and the wife
And
are
the brother never
just
goes, "Where's the fucking head?"
no. He does. He's like, it's under the chair, like out there right now.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's just right there. So
Now,
they're
now that you said it's a sitcom thing, like I'm imagining the fucking like Big Bang Theory
yeah.
esque escapade of just
Uh-huh.
like sitting in the chair but like leaning back to try and reach the thing. And they're
Yeah, you're
like,
trying to get the
oh
remote
yeah,
and
just stretching, just
yeah.
doing whatever. This is absurd.
And so then that little 12-year-old shows up at the door and talks to his wife. Hey, I want to talk to your husband. Now's not a good time. Like, well, he kissed me in the elevator. I'm like, so brings the kid in. She has her little yappy dog with her, and they're all arguing like, what is going on? And the husband's just like freaking out. He doesn't know what to do, and the little girl puts down the dog and it goes under the chair and retrieves the baby's head. And the brother scoops it up as quick as he can, and the wife is like, what is that, what is that, realizes what it is, complete anguish, freaking out, takes the head away. Everybody is just screaming or they're catatonic, and she walks out to the balcony and jumps. Well, you don't see her jump, but
Yeah.
it's like they pan away. The husband's freaking out. They pan back. She's gone. Then the next scene is just the cops going like, "Yeah, the wife jumped, and the husband soon after." So I think he ran out and killed himself afterwards. And it just ends with like his brother and the girlfriend just not being able to do anything.
Someone's got a case of the Mondays.
It's yeah, it's a really well made, well acted, just
Does this whole movie take place pretty much
in an
the
apartment. Yeah, there's like
Nice.
the furniture store. You get a little bit of stairwell stuff, but yeah, pretty much in the apartment. And while she's at the grocery store,
Sure.
So very few locations, but mainly in the apartment. And it's so good. If you can get past the how terrible something like that
Yeah.
could possibly be, it's a very funny movie. And it's hard to recommend because that is something so many people don't want to see.
Yeah, I mean, I can appreciate what it did, and I'm sure it's quality film and all that good stuff. But just from the subject matter, I don't now.
As a father,
2 years ago, I could have done it. Now, I don't think I can bring myself to watch it because
Yeah.
then it'll just like sit in my brain forever, and then I'll
Yes.
just be like, anytime there's any sort of window or anything, I'm like, get away from there.
Yeah, so it's on Tubi if anybody wants to see it. It is in Spanish, but that should not be an issue.
See it on Tubi.
Yes, it on Tubi. That's what you just said.
Yes, it on Tubi.
So I mean, I was hoping to get a classic Steve pulling on his cheeks, and
I did when I was reading it. Just reading it shook me to my core,
Yeah.
and I was like, I don't think I can watch this movie.
It's just the idea that your wife told you don't buy this thing, but you're such a stubborn fucking asshole that you do anyways, and that's the thing that causes you to kill your child, the only thing that is making her happy in her miserable life to this asshole.
Yeah.
It's a tragedy, but very good.
Gross.
Yeah. All right, you want to get to our main topic?
Let's do it.
All right. Flight Riz 2025's Smash January hit about a man who is ratting on his former boss. He was the accountant for the mob or some criminal.
Yeah, we'll say mob.
And he has cut a deal. He's going to be flown back to testify. And Mark Wahlberg is pretending to be the pilot of this flight and has orders to kill him and the FBI agent.
Yeah.
And it's implied that he's gonna like take him somewhere and rape both of them and maybe like feed them to bears or something. I'm not sure, but it seems like all he has to do is kill him. But he has like extra plans.
I don't know about the rape part, but it's implied. That
No, he was talking about like having sex with at least Eric Foreman.
Sure, but that could have just been like playful banter. But like, it's definitely implied. I'm not saying it wasn't going to happen. I'm just saying it's implied and shown that he is into torture of whatever.
And then it's an hour and a half of slowly flying and talking to people on radios and subduing a guy. Then he gets free, and then you got to subdue him again. This is such a bad movie, but very funny to watch because we got to see it together, and I think it was a fun. If watching this alone, it would have been absolutely miserable.
Yeah.
But having people that you can laugh at when they have the dumbest jokes or bits of dialogue, and we could just look at each other going like, "What is this?" Because Mel Gibson, you're better than this as a filmmaker. As a person, you're pretty terrible, but as a filmmaker, you've made one of my favorite movies, Apocalypto, a movie that is like so authentic. It feels like you've traveled in time. It doesn't feel like a movie.
Yeah, I mean,
and then you make this. This is like to Cinemax in the '90s sort of bullshit. This
could have been made by any first-time director. I feel like. Because this was definitely I looked it up. The writer of this only has one other credit as like an editor for like a documentary or something. This was his first script.
This is his baby.
If you told me he made this in AI or something, or like an AI machine made this, and then they had to like, hey guy, do you want a writing credit on the thing? We'll give it to you, but we're going to throw you $50 and then, or I don't know. Because this movie made me angry. Angry that I saw it, angry that you guys offered to like watch it.
Hey, all I said was me and Nick are seeing Flight Risk at this time.
I know.
FYI. Even look at the test. I said FYI, just for your information.
Yeah,
You showed up.
I did.
This is on you.
I don't get out much, but as a big fan of Mel Gibson's directorial work, like Braveheart, I've seen a bunch of times. It was one of my favorite movies growing up. It was one of the films that probably got me into like the idea of filmmaking and big epics and swords and all that kind of stuff. And then Passion of the Christ was not bad. And then I love Apocalypto is incredible. Like you said, it just feels like you just traveled back in time and they just happen to have film cameras there. And then Hacksaw Ridge is also really good.
That's the one, like one of his I have not seen.
Yeah.
Because I was in his era of like, oh, why are we still giving him work? We have all these terrible things about him. And so I kind of like just boycotted it because I don't care about war movies either and religious movies. So it's like, it was this trifecta of things I don't give a fuck
it has
about.
a lot of like the safe Hollywood bets in terms of like, oh, this is this scene and this is that scene. Like I've seen these things before, but it's still just a really well-made war movie and well acted and everything. And Andrew Garfield is great.
Yeah.
That being said, how did he make this? Because there is nothing good about it. Everything that you could do wrong, I feel like, is here. The acting is stiff and uninspired. Mark Wahlberg, I would say, is actually like kind of okay in this movie. Usually, he's often considered not a good actor or like, at least not the best part of a movie. With the exception of like maybe The Departed.
I was just thinking that, but he's only memorable because he just
made for him.
He just cusses the whole time, like ah ha ha, isn't that funny? He's got like 2 scenes,
limited screen time, and this was the first movie he's done since Fear, where he was the villain.
Oh, really?
And you definitely, as I'm watching, I'm like, oh yeah, this is bringing like the Fear.
Yeah, Fear's a good movie.
Yeah,
he's scary in that.
It kind of brought that vibes, even though it was a different character. It's like, oh, I'm just seeing the adult version. Like the Fear guy grew up, became a serial killer, and this is kind of his vibe. Anyway, the direction does nothing interesting or exciting, and just everything seems cheap, from the visual effects to like how they filmed the plane.
And like, it's so boring. And then once we get to like the landing, we're like whipping around the fire trucks and everything, and suddenly it becomes so dynamic right in the last 10 seconds of the movie. Like, where was any of this pizzazz during the nosediving scene?
Yeah, and I know we're jumping towards the end, but also this movie's not necessarily bloodless, but the violence is like so minimal because you can't have. Like they found reasons to not make it too violent.
Yeah.
But then you get to the end and he's like pulling his hand out of the handcuffs and it's just like scraping the skin off.
Yeah.
And it's super gross.
It could have been grosser though, because it just felt like he was bloody and his like skin was moving. It didn't feel like a degloving like Gerald's game.
But it was still like, it felt almost out of place because we haven't really gotten this bloody up until this point. And then him breaking his thumb too.
Yeah.
So anyway, everyone, this whole movie is bad. I think the worst thing about this movie is the script, because I think the acting, it's bad, but it's not like atrocious, because these are actors you've seen and stuff.
I don't know her. Did you look her up?
I didn't, because I didn't care, but I know I've seen her and stuff. And the direction you could have got, it just feels like if you just got any director straight out of college or a film festival or just anybody, it wouldn't have made a difference to me. It could have been the same movie.
Yeah.
But like, you threw Mel Gibson's name on there. Not that they promoted him at all. You didn't see Mel Gibson on Jimmy Fallon or anything. No,
but it did in the trailer.
You gotta see Flight Risk or whatever.
The trailer did say like from the director. Here's a guy who has
proven time and time again he is a great filmmaker. What the fuck is this?
Maybe it was like a deal with the studio. Hey, you want to get back into our good graces, you're going to need to do this. We've had this script for a while and we need to shoot it. We need a director. It'll be easy because it'll just be on a soundstage in a green screen the whole time.
Yeah, I'd like to know the budget of this movie. I didn't look it up, but if you told me this was a $4 million movie, I believe you. Told me it was a $50 million movie, I believe you. And then, so it's either like a solid use of that budget or a complete gross misuse of that budget. And I imagine like getting Mark Wahlberg probably cost more than the film itself.
Yeah, I bet he was like a $5 million paycheck unless they asked him to take a cut because they were trying to save money. And
I don't know, but
Topher Grace doesn't, ask for a lot probably.
No, I mean, I don't think either of the two quote-unquote leads cost too much, but Mark Wahlberg seems like the kind of guy like, oh, you want Marky Mark in this picture? You got to throw him some major cashola. Yeah. I don't know what accent that was. It wasn't
he's
Boston.
from Boston.
Yeah. But anyway, God, I don't even know where to fucking begin with this movie. Because we kind of talked about it the other day, but...
Yeah, and it's like, is this a movie you go beat for beat? Why? There's no point in that. Hey, they try to... The plane is nosediving. And then they're not. Oh, we're going to hit a mountain. And then they don't.
Well, they do.
They do. They should have taken a wing off. It's like, oh, it's just snow. Okay, I don't believe it. If it was just the landing gear that hit it, that's one thing. But they were completely covered in that
submerged in snow.
I'll say, Topher Grace, shut the fuck up. You're not funny. Not everything needs to be an Eric Foreman quip. I think you could have played this way more meek and scared, but you're just any character you've ever been before. Yeah. You're fucking Eddie Brock in this. You're In Good Company guy.
Did you watch In Good Company?
Years ago. Okay. I don't remember much about it, but I can't think of another movie that has Topher Grace. Ocean's 11, but he is just playing Topher Grace in that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, from the very first frame of this movie is, or at least the first shot, the camera pans down from the Alaskan sky onto his motel room, and it's like, did they CGI this?
Yeah, that looks so
it looks so
bad.
Fake.
Yeah.
It's like, why didn't you just...
Because they would have to go to Alaska or someplace, but they just made a CG motel.
It just looked bad. And then we have this scene where he's in this motel room, hiding from the feds, making chicken noodle soup and
ramen soup. He calls it chicken noodle, but it's like it's cup of noodles.
Yeah,
and it's like you would say chicken flavored ramen, but he said chicken noodle soup.
Yeah,
or he says it's chicken noodle. That's not what you call it. Anywho,
I digress. And there's a tap on the window. It's like, oh, who could that be? Could it be the feds or the Moretti family out to get me? And he opens it, and it's the worst CGI moose I've ever seen. And so we're 45 seconds into this film. I'm like, I can tell this is a piece of shit. And then it just keeps staying bad.
Yeah. And like she busts in the FBI woman and they capture him. And of course it's like, this is a life and death. He's on the run. He should be scared as hell. But his only complaint is, don't put me face down on the comforter. It's so crusty. Hilarious. Oh, motel rooms. They're gross because people have sex in them.
He's already quipping. He already has to pee and doesn't want her or to close the door or whatever. So anyway. Then we get on this flight and, Mark Wahlberg shows up. They take off. Everything seems fine. He's a little chatty Cathy, but doesn't set off any real red flags other than oh, this must just be some Alaskan redneck who we only have to deal with for an hour and a half.
I'm sad he dropped the accent. Then he just went to his Boston accent. I liked his Southern drawl.
Yeah. So they, she figures it out. Or Topher Grace figures it out first, but can't say anything because he doesn't want to alert him, and she was not listening.
I did think it was pretty clever to bite your button off and spit it at her. But you think you would take your feet and tap 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 tap, look down, something. But
well, he was looking in the mirror.
It's true. It's true.
So how does I mean, I know she sees like the blood
on his neck and on his
what was
shirt.
what was the thing that really was just like, oh, he's definitely
Like
lying.
he did mention about, oh, you guys are going to go to Seattle after this. That was the first
Oh yeah,
little flag, and then it
she was.
was
I ran
to
into
this other pilot.
Grokowski or
Yeah,
whatever. What you
and it's
know?
like, oh yeah, he's a great guy. Actually, it was a woman. Oh, you mean his sister?
Yeah, I could
And
tell you some stories about her.
yeah,
Like it did a decent job covering up his tracks,
yeah,
but
he thought on his feet.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He's been doing this a while.
yeah,
Fight ensues. She gets knocked out. He threatens to kill her. She wakes up. She
tases him
tases him, and the tasing goes on
for yeah.
forever.
Just shows how
Um,
tough he is.
yeah, because they're leaning up against the
The
steering the
controls, yeah.
controls. The plane's going down, and because of the direction they're going and their weight, like she can't push him off because he's so
Hmm.
heavy. But all she's doing is just shocking him
Yeah,
for 3 minutes, and it almost seemed cartoony because
yeah,
it's just a grown man on top of her just going like
yeah,
and it would cut away and everyone's like ah, but then cut back to him and go and then cut away again and then back to him and
yeah.
it's like oh my
I can't
god.
wait to see those edits.
Yeah. But I did appreciate is that he had like this giant black burn mark
Hmm.
on his neck. I thought that was kind of
Yeah.
fun.
But like they're nose diving to the ground and no one's dangling in their seat. Like Topher Grace is just sitting there like, pull up, pull up. He's not trying to hold himself back. He's not dangling forward. There's no sense of actual physics
Sure.
going on. And I mentioned to you, like, my favorite shot is just they cut to the plane outside and it's nosediving so much it's practically upside down. And it just looks like a picture that was flipped upside out.
Mhm.
It's a comedy edit, and one of the first scenes that really had me like dying laughing.
uh, so yeah, then he's unconscious for a while,
The
and
time up.
yeah, they
She's
tie
got to unlock him and trust him.
Uh, and this is the part of the movie where like, okay, this fugitive and this woman are now in this extreme situation. This is where they really bond and form a friendship.
Yeah.
And that never really happens throughout the movie. Like she's just kind of realized like, okay, he's not going to kill me.
Yeah.
He's not a threat to me. But it's never like their conversations really led to any like deep emotional or character growth or anything like that.
Yeah. It's like she has to be goaded by the bad guy
Yeah.
to tell her backstory.
So she's on the phone with like the FBI director who was in charge of the mission or whatever, and you know
They get her a pilot to talk to.
yeah, she gets a pilot to talk to, but also the director is just like, all right, I'll look into this or whatever. I don't even fucking remember.
Yeah.
But then anyway, long story short, they come to the realization that they think someone in the FBI like leaked their information because Mark Wahlberg had a picture of both of them and Topher Grace's mom's house. And they're like, oh, who could have leaked our information? And then they're like, oh, it must be my director.
Mm-hmm.
And then it turns out it wasn't the director. It was actually the person above that FBI person. And I was like, oh, we're going to get you. And the whole time, Mark Wahlberg's in the back, just like talking about torturing them and
fucking his mom and
banging in people and stuff. And it's all just awful dialogue that just keeps going. And then you have this weird romance C plot of like the pilot on the phone is like, oh, you must be a beautiful woman. I will, I'm gonna help you land this plane. But you have to promise to go out to dinner with me. And she's like, kind of into it.
Yeah.
I was like, this isn't
Buddy,
the
not
time.
the time,
Like,
yeah.
read the room.
And don't hit on people while they're at their job, especially when they're relying on you to save their life. You can't be like, oh, I won't save your life unless you date me.
Yeah. Which is why, like, from the context of all the movies we've seen, we're like, okay, this guy who's helping her fly the plane, he's leading her to her death.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the twist. But that wasn't a twist.
Nope, he was a good guy.
Yeah, he was a good guy who helped get her to where she needed to go.
And does very normal celebrations. Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to just talk about the beat for beat of this movie because
Yeah.
it's so boring. There's not much to
There's
it.
nothing to talk about.
He escapes those handcuffs. They fight again. He stabs Topher Grace twice. He's bleeding out and dying.
That did shock me. I didn't expect that. but he's so brave. He pulls it out of his chest so he can cut the
Yeah.
seatbelt so she isn't being strangled anymore.
She
And
shoots
then
him.
she finally fucking shoots
She
him.
shoots him. No, she shoots
Oh,
him with a flare.
with the flare, which
Uh,
is I love a good flare like usage.
uh-huh.
There's a movie called Dead Calm where they shoot Billy Zane with a flare in his mouth and
Uh-huh.
then it blows out the back of his head. Saw that as a kid, impressed me so much. I love a good flare use.
um, so
And
yeah,
then he tries to shoot her. No, yeah, before he gets shot with the flare, he's shooting her with the gun. They are 4 feet apart, and she's hiding behind a tiny chair. He shoots 3 times and he misses. And he was talking about, oh, what if the bullets bounce around here, hit a fuel line, hit a window? I know he was just scaring her from
yeah,
shooting him, but it causes no damage. It doesn't fuck up the instruments where she can't talk to him anymore. Now I got to do this on my own, or break
yeah.
a window. It does
She's
nothing.
not hiding behind some like big steel thing. She's
No.
hiding behind a leather chair.
Yeah.
Now, granted, maybe we could say that there's a piece of metal inside
There's
the
got to be some
chair.
supports.
It's
Yeah.
fine, but any other movie would have like at least like clipped her or
Yeah.
gone into the controls like, oh, I can't get a reading on the altitude or
I
something.
can't pull up because I lost the use of this shoulder, and
But
I'm
that
using
doesn't
one.
happen.
No.
Uh,
But then she does shoot him, and it's like, just like shut the fuck up and just go lay down. Blang, blang, blang.
yeah. But they would like keep knocking him out, but not tie him up instantly. Like I know you electrocuted him for a long time, or you knocked him out because you hit him over the head with the fire extinguisher. I did like that the cabin was like filling with. I was like, all right, so what the fuck are they gonna do? It didn't even occur to me that like, oh yeah, this plane's so small, you can open
these windows. Yeah.
So I thought that was a nice little touch.
But yeah, like you put him on his belly, you put handcuffs behind his back, around his ankles, around his throat. Do something more than what you did.
But yeah, they just keep letting him live because they keep saying they like need him because I guess they would help.
Yeah, but
pilot the plane, but he's not going to help
I
at
think
all.
they need him to like expose the real bad guys. He's never gonna talk.
I guess, yeah.
It's like, and she doesn't want to kill him because her last mission she got someone killed.
Right. Yeah.
And so she's got to do the right thing. Like, but you could blow his kneecaps out. Do something.
Yeah, her so the big like emotional core of this movie of like why you should care about this person and why she's I guess makes some of the choices she does. She's been out of the field for a while because her last mission she failed when she let whoever she was watching take a shower and then left the room and then the cartel showed up, threw a Molotov cocktail, and she burned alive. And I was like, oh man, that's kind of fucked up. And then it didn't even occur to me. And when you were like, yeah, that's the best place for her to be.
Turn the shower on. You're fine. It's like, oh, she was taking a bath. So she ducked under the water? Like, or it's like, if she was like, she just got in there and just started changing, couldn't even fill up the tub yet. Like, okay, I get that's probably what happened, but I'm just imagining her laying in the tub, it crashes, and she just kind of slides underneath and is perfectly fine.
Yeah, I mean, I know realistically she would still die either way because it's like even if she like had filled the tub she was under, she couldn't burn alive. Yeah. She had like a straw. It would kill all the oxygen, or like maybe it ran for so long the building collapsed. Whatever. It's fine.
Yeah,
but it was just real funny when you're like, yeah, that's the best place for it. Like, just use the water against the fire. Like, oh my god. Anyway, so she's like, this is her first mission back. She's like, I can't fail this mission, and I'm better than you, so I'm going to keep you alive or whatever. It's just, I didn't care about any of it because the rest of the movie's so bad. Like, don't try and make me care about this character now.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get to the airstrip. She lands the plane. It kind of like the wheels snap off. It's careening. She shoots Mark Wahlberg a couple times, but he's not dead. And then he flies out, and then he lands on the thing, and he's like, "Oh, he's still alive. He's gonna come and get her." And then just gets immediately crushed by an ambulance that's like driving past.
And then we get to see him roll under the tire too, which like that. But come on, you got to have an airplane type death. He's got to fall into the propeller. He gets
That's what I was waiting for.
Yeah, like a seatbelt wrapped around his neck, and he gets sucked out, and it breaks his neck, a la Air Force One.
Yeah,
something. But
I assumed the thing that was going to kill him was going to be that flare gun. Like you saw that early on. Like, okay, there's the Chekhov's flare gun. So however they're going to do it, that's going to be the thing that kills him.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, no, he fell out of the plane and got hit by a car.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I guess there's your big twist at the end.
It's like Face Off. Not Face Off. I'm sorry. Con Air.
Hmm.
Evil John Malkovich. They're fighting. Is he going to get sucked out of the plane? They land. Is he going to get crushed by like when it crushes into a building? And he dies by one of those oil rig machines that
Yeah.
come down and crushes his head. Like, that's not set up at all. Like, you wanted to be a part of the rest of the movie. You could have, we landed next to this swamp of alligators. And then he gets eaten by an alligator. I'm like, well, that's kind of weird for this movie.
Yeah. I mean, he was Cyrus the Virus, so maybe like,
He dies of AIDS slowly in
yeah,
prison.
somebody with I don't know, super gonorrhea coughs in his mouth, and then
Yeah.
he just something.
Yeah. Or like he actually was able to put a virus in a computer, but because of that, that caused something to go off and that killed him. Oh, look, the virus did,
Sure.
something.
I mean,
But an oil derrick or whatever they're called? Okay. I've always wanted to see those used as something to kill someone ever since I was, as a kid, I
but
saw them
save
all the
it for a
time.
final destination.
Something.
Anyway, uh, yeah. Oh, and then so they defeat the bad guy. Mark Wahlberg is dead. Which this has to. I'm gonna guess this is the actress's first movie because the one playing the paramedic.
Yeah, yeah.
Because like her line delivery wasn't great, and just like the guy who was in the back of the plane, like
We
where
had
is he?
we had a third
I'm sorry,
passenger.
ma'am. We lost him. It's like, you'll, and she's like, oh, thank
thank
God. Laughs from the audience.
That is a pretty funny part of her just looking at it and probably going, "This bitch, wow."
Yeah.
But then we have one of the funniest moments.
Yes.
She gets out. Topher Grace is being wheeled away. He's bleeding out. And the pilot on the phone comes out and congratulates her with a little dance.
But yeah,
and then
but
there's
he doesn't say anything to her. He just kind of comes out, and it's him.
Because he's an Indian dude.
Yeah, because the voice is Indianish. And then he's just like, ha, 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 and like kind of just throws his hands in the air, like, oh.
It looks like a fighting game victory thing where it's like only eight frames.
It's so weird. And I looked it up after the movie. So the guy on the phone isn't the guy, and the guy on the phone is very handsome.
Oh, is he?
Yeah,
okay.
It was odd, at least from that one photo I saw on the IMDb page. But so they hired that guy to do the voice, but then they hired this guy to just be the guy who like walks out. So I don't know if they was just like, oh, we hired this Indian guy to do the voice, but there's no Indian guys where we're shooting. We'll just use this guy. I don't know if this was like in partnership. It was like partially produced by an Indian studio. It's like, oh, this is an actor that we like, so we're gonna put him here, but he doesn't really speak any English.
Yeah.
So we had to hire this other voice actor. It's like, why did you do that?
I don't know.
You could have just gotten anybody. Like that should have been some sort of fun cameo from
Kumail Nanjiani,
or even if you don't go that, just like, oh, a somewhat famous person did this voice and then shows up at the end for a bit.
That's like a perfect role for like Aziz Ansari.
Sure.
Short guy making jokes, hitting on women. Then he shows up and he's like a foot shorter than her. Like that's a funny joke to have.
Yeah.
But then the funniest part is she notices a evil looking man.
Good thing all bad guys are scary looking.
Yeah, every bad guy is really terrifying. And I know I've seen this guy before. He just has bad guy face. And he goes into the ambulance where Topher Grace is. She runs up to go save him, opens the door, and he's suffocating him with a plastic bag. But it's such like a close shot of him dying that it's comical. And it's just the sound of as he's being choked. And that's not a good moment to like kind of end your movie on. And then she kills the bad guy.
She kills the bad guy. She's gonna put the Moretti away, and also the FBI guy who was like taking bribes from Moretti. And so it's like, oh yeah, we did it.
Even though it was so easy to kill her boss off screen, like, oh, there was a car accident and she died. Like, you're not safe. Now you lost your closest friend in the FBI. Who's on your side to go after your boss's boss's boss? This chick is dead.
Yeah.
Like they're a missile attack or something.
There really should have been one final scene of like the FBI guy is like on a plane and he's like, all right, and you're talking to some goon or whatever, and it's like, all right, we're gonna take off. I'll meet you in Bermuda or whatever. This bitch isn't gonna get me. And then the flight takes off, and then a waitress walks by, and you don't see her face. It's like, hey, honey, how long till we get there? And she's like, you're not getting, your flight's ending now, or something. Pulls up the gun. It's like, oh no, then cut to black. At least you'll have like
Something.
that, so you're like, oh, she got him.
Yeah, you just have to assume that she's just so good at her job, and of her word
I'm
is
sorry,
enough.
you're a flight risk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something. Yeah,
This movie's atrocious.
Yeah.
It's
it's an F. It's an F movie. There's no redeeming qualities except for the fun you may have making fun of it.
yeah. I'm gonna give it. I reserve the right to change my mind. I'm gonna not go F. I'm gonna go D minus minus.
Okay.
Because I think there is a good movie here.
Sure.
It just didn't have a good director or good cast or a good script. Because I think the idea of like, oh, an FBI agent has to keep uh, her person alive, but it's all set in a plane. There's something here. It could have worked if you just had any real good dialogue or script or anything. Like this could have been, or this could have been like a fun, like indie film from a first time director, or it could have been like the fun style like Plane was with Gerard Butler. Like
Sure.
that movie looked like garbage, and then we saw it, and that movie is low key kind of badass. Like that is a fun movie that feels like this would be a good double feature for that.
Sure.
But that one's an okay movie versus this utter piece of shit.
Yeah.
So I'll give it a D minus because like I kind of had a little bit of fun with Mark Wahlberg, and I did have fun with you guys, but yeah, this and Madam Web are about the same because Madam Web is. I'm gonna give this higher because you loved Madam Web and I didn't. So as a fuck you to you, I'm gonna give this a D minus versus an F. But it is bad, and I don't want anyone to see this movie because the theater we were in wasn't a huge theater.
No,
but there were people.
There were people there.
Paid to see.
Yeah, and someone clapped.
Yeah, I think it was ironically, but
you never know.
You never know, because this is not how you kind of start off in January. This
is exactly how you start off in January. You dump all your garbage.
I don't need January to be a dump month. I need January to be like, oh, we're re-releasing the Oscar movies, and here's some stuff to be excited for, or not even be excited for. Like this, it doesn't have to be Oscar movies or anything like that. But there's so many movies getting made. Why can't we just have good ones all the time?
Well, that's the dream.
Yeah. Why do we have to have the dump month where like, oh, we're putting all of our garbage, like our shitty night swims or whatever in January?
You don't make money in January, so why would you put a good movie out in January?
Maybe. Well, then don't put movies out at all. Just put all the Oscar movies that nobody saw, but now everybody wants to because the nominations came out.
Yeah.
Let's just watch Oscar. Make January the Oscar movies. Just do that, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, they do anyways, but those probably still don't make a ton of money as well because they've already had their release.
People don't care about quality unless it's got pop stars that sing in it.
Well, last week of January is next Friday, the 31st, and it's Companion and Dogman. I know this is deja vu. I already said that, but now it's actually true.
Well, I doubt you're going to see Dogman.
I'm not going to see Dogman. I'm not going to
see Dogman.
But I'm going to see Companion.
But I'll do my best to see Companion.
Please do, because it looks really good. All right. Well, if you want to get in contact with us, we are at WRPLpodcast@gmail.com. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Blue Sky. As always, I'm Ben.
And I'm Steve.
And keep consuming.
Say it with some gumption, Ben.
And keep consuming.
Wonderful. Is it the decapitated baby movie?
God, yes, it's the decapitated baby movie.